Hey everybody, this is Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violins. So the theme for today's video is how to practice the violin or any stringed instrument. I've done videos on this subject before. They're usually pretty in-depth and the videos get pretty long, so I'm gonna try to do a shorter video that's more distilled. I'll skip some of the explanatory stuff, the scientific data and whatnot, and just give you the nuts and bolts of the best way to practice your violin. So the goal of practicing obviously is to get better, but we also want to learn as fast as possible and we want to have fun. Why do we want to learn as fast as possible? Well, mostly because we want to get to a point sooner that we are at a higher level so we can just play more music. So how do we make practicing more enjoyable? Okay, so there's a couple things to think about. First of all, you want to make sure that you are warmed up, right? You want to play something really slowly at the beginning of your practice session before you play the hard stuff. Why is that? Well, you'll experience less pain and discomfort during your practice session, and the stuff that's harder will be easier to play. So you'll have more fun. So the second thing is you want to put your mind in a state of flow. So this is a term that's used in a lot of different things, but how do you put your mind in a state of flow? Well, you do that in a few different ways, but number one, you can make sure that you maintain your focus, right? So that means no distractions. Don't have your phone around, turn your phone off, your texting off, your alerts, all that stuff, right? And anything else that can distract you. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you're not practicing things that are too easy, because then they'll be boring. And because you want to be challenged so you're interested while you're practicing. The other thing is that if something is too hard, well, then you can get frustrated and then you might want to quit. So if something is too hard, then you can just break it down to smaller pieces or just slow it down. So if you take a really hard passage, just pick a speed at which you can practice it. You're still challenged, you're still interested, you're still enjoying yourself, and you're also learning at the same time. Then you gradually pick up the speed as you're able, and then you'll be able to master that passage. So again, just if something's too easy, just don't play it over and over again. Pick something that's challenging to you and interesting. If it's too hard, then just slow it down and then incrementally speed it up. Okay, so the meat and potatoes of practicing, of course, is how do you make your practicing more productive and efficient? Okay, so there's 4 primary things that you want to think of. And by the way, just go ahead and hit the subscribe and like button really quick. That helps out the channel because, we all gotta make Google happy, right? So anyway, what are the 4 things that you can do to make your practice more productive and efficient? Okay, so number 1, and this could be the most important thing if you remember anything from the video, and that is practice doesn't make perfect, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. So what you want to do, your sole obligation during your practice session, is to play something correctly as many times as you can. I'll say that again, play something correctly as many times as you can. The reason is very simple. Your brain doesn't know what's right or wrong. It has no idea. It'll just memorize whatever you do. So you just want to play something correctly as many times as you can. Another way to think about this is you don't want to practice something until you get it right. You want to practice something until you can't get it wrong. So if you play something correctly a whole bunch of times, your brain is going to memorize that and it literally won't let you play something wrong. That's the point that you want to get at. Now, the easy way to do this is to just use the 10 times rule. When you're practicing something that's really difficult, just play it 10 times in a row without messing up. And if you can't do that, well, then just slow it down or play a little smaller piece and then put those pieces together. But you can do it. If you pick a slow enough speed, you can play just about anything perfectly 10 times in a row. Now, if you play it 6 times and you mess up, go back to the beginning and do it all over again. And then you just have to discipline yourself. Make sure you can play it 10 times in a row without messing up. If you do that, your practice sessions are going to be super productive. Okay, so number 2 is related to number 1, which is slow practice equals fast practice. Now, this seems a little counterintuitive, but the reason why we say slow practice equals fast practice is because most people subconsciously want to practice quickly. Why? Well, because they want to learn quickly. They want to get to the practice session. They want to learn violin faster, but they're actually sabotaging themselves by practicing things too quickly. So you want to practice things slowly at first and then build up the speed gradually. Now, the process seems slow, but in actuality, if you were to time it out and do an A/B experiment or whatever, you would find that if you practice slower, you spent more time practicing something slower, you'd actually learn it faster and you learn it better. Okay, so the third tool in your toolbox for making your practice sessions awesome is by using the metronome. Now, using the metronome requires some discipline and it's not necessarily fun. But if you do it right, after a while, you really enjoy it. Why? Because the metronome is perfect and it gives you like this amazing level of accuracy and consistency in your practice. So if you're trying to practice something slowly and then build up the speed, well, what better way to do that than with a metronome? So if you put the metronome on there, you develop an internalized beat, you start to reduce the possibility that you're gonna rush or drag or something like that because you're teaching your body perfection, right? And then it makes it really easy for you to be consistent. So let's say you have to practice a difficult passage over several days. Well, if you know you practice it at 60 the first day, well, then you just put it on 65 the next day, and then 70, and then 75, and so on and so forth, right? So use the metronome when you can. It's your best friend. So the fourth thing that you want to remember is you want to practice in pieces. So another way to think about it is you want to practice small and then practice big. So for example, let's say you're looking at a movement out of the Sights Violin Concerto in Suzuki Book 4, okay? Let's say you've identified a page that you want to learn, a page, okay? Let's say it's 2 pages, you want to learn the first page, okay? So you'll go through it, you'll write in your fingerings and your bowings and stuff like that. Okay, so now you're going to identify the most difficult parts of that first page, and you're going to practice those little pieces. So maybe you got a piece that's like in a line of music. So you're going to slowly practice it, you're going to build up the speed for whatever your target speed is, and then you find another difficult spot and you do the same thing. Then you're going to add the notes around those difficult passages. So you learn that difficult passage, and then you, like maybe you'll learn a whole line around that, or maybe 2 lines around it. Then you go to the next difficult passage on that page, you learn that difficult passage, and then you add the notes around that. Then you're going to add all the notes for that entire page, including the easy stuff, because remember, we don't want to practice the easy stuff too much because that's a waste of time and it's boring. So now you're going to practice the entire page. So you've got the difficult stuff learned first, you got the notes learned around them, and then you practice the entire page. Well, now what do? Now you go on to the next page and you do exactly the same thing. But remember, when you're practicing that next page, occasionally add some review of that first page with that. So eventually that second page is going to be as good as the first page. Then what do? Then you put both pages together. Voila! Now you know both pages, you've mastered both pages of the piece, and you were very structured in how you did it, and now you can play everything equally well. So guys, I hope this video helped. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the video. I answer just about all the questions that I get, actually. And if you have ideas for other videos, just give them to me because I'll probably do it. So with that, I'll bid you guys adieu and happy practicing.